Welcome to Songs of Experience, a Bob Dylan podcast. I'm Henry Bernstein, and I'm excited to share a spoiler-filled reaction to A Complete Unknown with my dear friend and brilliant filmmaker, Michael Glover Smith. On Tuesday, December 3rd, Michael and I flew down to Orlando, Florida from Chicago, Illinois for a press and guild screening of the new James Mangold film about Bob Dylan. It was an amazing experience. Immediately after the film, Michael and I went to the AMC Theater bar and talked for almost 2 hours about the film. Unfortunately, I only hit record about halfway through our conversation, so you'll be joining us mid-convo. First, you'll hear the 45-second spoiler-free immediate reaction, and then we'll transition to the full conversation. Please be aware, this is a full spoiler review. If you haven't seen the film yet, I highly recommend you turn this off now and wait until after you see it. You have been warned. Enjoy.
All right, this is your Bob Dylan Field Report from A Complete Unknown, which we are at in Orlando, Florida, thanks to Michael Glover Smith. So just first reactions. What did you think, Michael?
I am fairly blown away by it. I've been saying for a long time that this film was going to succeed or fail based on Timothée Chalamet's performance, and I think he is fantastic in it.
Yeah.
So for me, it exceeded my expectations, and I'm going to watch this movie like 100 more times.
Same. It was great. I loved it. I love loving things, and I love loving Bob Dylan. And if you love Bob Dylan and you love loving things, you're going to like this. There was this part where I had this realization, like when she was like, you should let me have a crack at that song, at Blowin' in the Wind, right?
Yeah,
and obviously
yeah.
at the beginning you chat with her and many
And
others.
it made it seem like she was being manipulative.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Which I thought was interesting.
It was really like it was a business move.
It was like, she was like, oh, I hear a hit here. You
Yeah,
know?
yes.
Yeah.
But she had a lot of hits with his songs.
She did.
And that moment...
I mean, she used him in a way.
Yes, exactly. And so maybe in just a different way that he used her, but like it was so interesting, that moment on stage where she's singing Farewell Angelina and he's watching it, and it's like that's his song. And that was the first time it felt really weird to me that Bob Dylan just watched all of these people sing his songs while he wasn't allowed to sing them, or you know, the birds, her, you know, all, that moment. Oh yeah, that moment when Pete jumps in to sing When the Ship Comes In with him.
Yes, I love that.
Did you interpret Bob as enjoying that, or feeling it was being a little annoyed that Pete did that?
It felt a little annoying.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, a little
bit.
bit.
Bob was respectful and likes but like it was, especially when he took a solo.
Yeah.
It was like, this doesn't go here. That's not what this is about. Right? Okay.
Yeah, a little annoying. Yeah, because they're just different worlds. It's different worlds clashing, you know.
And you know, when the ship comes in, you know, obviously has traditional Irish.
Exactly.
But
and it has a theme that could be seen as like kind of civil rights adjacent.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's about freedom and wanting freedom, right? And revenge when you get that freedom, right?
Yeah.
But it was just interesting because, like, the way Pete sings it, the hour when the ship comes in. And even, you know, at Newport in '64, like when the whole audience would go, and the times they are a change. And Bob seemed annoyed by that too. Like and that's kind of, if you watch him now, it's kind of like that. Like, I don't think Bob likes people singing along with his songs. He wants people to listen to him.
Exactly.
And that's kind of like what it's like going to see him now. And
he's like, no, listen to me.
Yeah, listen to me.
I don't know how it goes. I'm going to show you how it goes.
Yes.
Which is his best quality.
Yeah. So that was really interesting, that sort of, because that's, I mean, 64, that's really like he's at the height of that powers. He already is done with that in his mind.
I was surprised at how much of the film took place in '65.
Yeah.
It felt like half the movie.
Yeah.
Right? It went through '61 through '64 really fast. And there were no titles that told you what year until '65.
Right.
And that was like,
it was '61.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we saw was '65.
So
the whole freewheeling montage, I guess, was like a year and a half or something, you know? 60.
Yes. Oh wait, I just remembered. I have to say it because I thought of this like 10 minutes ago. The best scene was Masters of War.
Yeah.
When Joan was watching about the Cuban Missile Crisis and she looks out the window and everyone's watching it. That blew my mind.
That was nuts.
The way it built.
That like people were watching their TV and literally trying to get out of town to escape a missile, or were they trying to find a shelter?
And the fact that they were all watching the same thing, like it's a different world. Yeah. It's like science fiction. You know, it's like you know.
Yes, it was like
you turned on your TV, you were seeing the same thing.
It was like like Orson Welles' War of the Worlds.
Yeah, exactly. And the way she like leaves and
who is she calling?
I don't know.
Her sister, maybe.
Yeah, a family member.
What, like, was she trying to get out of town too?
Yeah, she was trying to get out of town.
Where did these people think they were going to go?
And then she hears Masters of War and goes down like that. It's like I felt like so many of the music scenes felt like music videos, and that was like the best one. You know, where it kind of like was showing you the context in which that song was written.
Right, like
that was a set piece.
Bob's reaction wasn't hopping in a cab and trying to get out of town. Bob's reaction was writing Masters of Fucking War and then playing it.
That night. Yeah, that night. I wrote the song today.
I loved all the like little songwriting scenes.
That happened a lot. There were a lot of scenes like that.
Bob in his excuse to show Timothy in his underwear. And
and Monica. Great looking one. And Elle Fanning was incredible.
She really was.
She's so
She's a good actor.
She's so like, and I think that was kind of smart to have them be sort of contrasting personalities, because Joan in the film seemed kind of cynical. You know what I mean? Like
she is, and I think
and
she
darker,
is.
like more serious. Whereas and brunette and dark features, and then Elle was blonde and like.
But she was very serious too. I mean, that character, she was an artist. She was a writer,
and she cared about
and civil rights, social
issues,
justice, and the environment,
and influenced him.
She sort of pushed him in a certain direction.
But I think she also was playful. She brought out the playful side in Bob. So it's like whatever we learned about him, it wasn't anything he said. It was like the way he impacted them in a way. You know what I mean? Like what he brought out in them.
But it's interesting because you felt that she brought out the playful in him, and while I feel like there were moments of that, I felt like her character was like very trying to be like a ball buster and a type A, like, okay, garbage comes on this day, and he's like, yes, mom, kind of thing. Like that's how I felt. But and that Joan sort of just brought out this like raw sexuality between them. Like,
she did.
Whether they were actually having sex or not, she did. They were.
Well, it was there was more tension there.
And I guess kind of like, I mean, what we forget is they didn't really do this. Like, although yes, the folk community was one big happy family, all these guys were in competition with each other for record sales. Like, remember, he's literally looking at Bob Dylan self-titled sitting in the
and it's
record store
special sale or something.
So it was already on sale in like 1962.
And then you see the guy grab the last
Joan Baez,
which was a great. So this is what Mangold is so good at. He knows how to tell the story through what the characters do. And he was really influenced by his one of his teachers is a famous British director, Alexander McKendrick, who worked in England in the 50s. And actually came to Hollywood and made a great movie called The Sweet Smell of Success with Burt Lancaster, which is an amazing film. And Alexander McKendrick had a poster in his office that said, "Talk without action is boring." And that's Mangold's philosophy. It's like never just about what people are saying, it's what they do that tells you who they are.
What are some examples of that?
Well, I'll give you the best example is at the end of Walk the Line, with the where Johnny Cash tells his dad to use the tin can telephone to talk to the grandkids. You know what I mean? It's like he needed a reconciliation scene between Johnny Cash and his dad, but it's not just talking about their feelings. It's like he's telling him to do something to tell stories to the children. So it's like.
So would an example of that be when Bob tries to give the harmonica back?
Yes.
And Woody pushes it towards him. He's like, you're not done with our world yet.
Yeah. And when Woody gives it to him to begin with.
Right.
Or, Bob. The one word. Woody only says one
Bob.
word. Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He was
Mangold
amazing, by the way.
oh yeah, he was incredible. Like they should give an Oscar for like best cameo.
Yeah.
he was completely believable.
He was great.
So yeah,
Mangold.
Mangold, like, you know, it's been said that seeing a conversation between two people doesn't sound exciting to watch. Yet we do it over and over again when we watch movies, because that's all it is two people talking.
Tell that to My Dinner with Andre. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's all talk, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're going to be perverse about only showing
Right.
time. But even when I made Handle with Care, you know, that film is based on a real date I went on. But I added things to it to make it more cinematic based on what they do. Because I went on a date with a girl who said, yeah, I can't tilt or turn my head because I might become paralyzed.
Did she have a straw?
No,
Oh,
that's
so
what I added because that shows you something. And also when she's like, do you want to see my scar? And she's like, it'll be easier if you come around. And he gets up and walks around.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't happen.
That didn't actually happen. Okay.
No, but, you know, you need action.
But there's no one tweeting, this didn't actually happen to Michael Glover Smith.
Because they don't know me.
They?
Yeah, they don't know me. That's why it's great. As a filmmaker, you steal from your own life and nobody knows.
Nobody knows. There haven't been 15 books written about it.
Yeah. With Dylan, everyone's like, that didn't happen.
Right.
He never wore that scarf.
Right.
Wrong microphone.
That Gibson hasn't been invented yet. That Neumann microphone hadn't been invented yet for another 2 years.
But Mangold's a real filmmaker, man. He's
really
like
is.
he directs in a very classical style.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
It felt like an old movie.
no,
like-
it's not.
But it's not. But like the way the just the title card, Complete
So
Unknown, came
simple,
out, just
so
white.
simple,
And
yeah.
he does that a lot. Like Heavy, I think, is like that. Like I think
Yeah. And I mean, I thought this film moved very quickly.
Oh,
but the editing
yeah.
isn't fast.
No,
it's
there are
like,
no quick cuts. There's
no quick cuts.
long
There's a
lingering
lot of
shots.
long takes, and
Yeah.
and
No, but it
yet,
blew by.
and yet it was so watchable. Like it was fun to watch, and every single musical sequence was like a highlight. And I also think this is what makes it weird. And I think they're doing this in the absence of being able to make a traditional biopic, where it's like, oh, here's his childhood trauma.
First this happened, then this happened.
Yeah, or you know, in the absence of making it more psychological, for lack of a better word, they put more music in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I noticed how
It's like
they didn't
this is
cut
the-
away after one verse. They
No.
played whole songs.
Whole songs all the way through. Like at Newport, you see them do 3 electric songs,
Yeah.
and they did cut a couple verses, but it's like a long.
They cut most of like Rolling Stone, but,
Yeah.
but fine.
you heard him do 2 verses.
But like he did all of Blowin' in the Wind
Yeah.
like twice. It Ain't Me, Babe. I mean,
Yeah, Song to Woody. I mean,
Song to Woody. They did.
yeah,
That was when I first
Song to
noticed that. I'm
Woody.
like,
You're
oh,
right.
they're doing it.
Yeah,
They're doing
yeah.
the whole thing. Like we got
Yeah.
all the way to Cisco and Lead Belly
And then
too.
with Don't Think Twice, it like started with him, and then it transitioned to Joan, which was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, and this is very helpful to me when I write my review tomorrow, I think there was more music in this film than in any biopic I've ever seen about a musician.
You
Just
think
the
you even walk the line?
Oh yeah, sheer number of songs.
I think you're right. Yeah, look how
It's
long
well-
how long was that credit
Yeah.
of the songs?
Yeah. Walk the Line has much more dialogue scenes and
Yes.
much more, him, you know, talking about his dead brother. It's very more conventionally dramatic. But here, I felt emotional watching it, even though it wasn't trying to do that. Like I said, that shot of Pete looking at Bob and Bob just sitting there on the bed looking alone, that was emotion. That evoked more emotion.
What do you think? Let's just get back into the storyline for a second. What do you think was happening for Pete at that moment? This person who had, for the bulk of the movie, had seen himself as sort of a surrogate father. This version of Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan as surrogate father for Bob, taking care of him. But in the moment where Bob was at his lowest and the most alone, Pete doesn't go in. So what is happening for Pete in that moment?
So I think Pete is thinking, because I was expecting to go in there and say something. I was like, oh, there's going to be a scene where they talk, but they don't. So I think Pete looked at him, saw him, and then walked away.
But why?
Because he knew that the break was
The paths had.
it was irreparable.
That no matter what he said, Bob needed to go.
Yeah, Bob was already.
So it was his way of letting go.
He had left. He had left.
Oh.
And he had left the movement.
Yeah,
So-
he left before he even got to Newport. Yeah.
And that's what the whole climactic Newport scene is symbolic of. It's like he chooses the guitar. Now, of course, that's fiction, right? It's like acoustic or electric.
Yeah,
it's like he made a
he made a choice.
decision.
Yeah.
But on a poetic level, it works because that's what he did do.
Yeah.
Like in his career, he didn't do it that way that night, literally, but
Yeah, they were kind of a little heavy-handed with like the electric represents one thing and the other, but it kind of was at the time.
But it was
like
if you think about it symbolically, he did choose the electric guitar by recording Highway 61 Revisited. I mean,
how heartbreaking was it when Pete was like, "Yeah, I got your record," and
Yes.
like he didn't actually listen to Bring It All Back Home, or
Yeah.
didn't like side 2 of Bring It All Back Home. That was really sad.
I'll say this: the book that it's based on is really great. Have you read it?
The Eli Wald
Yeah.
book? No, I haven't read it. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. It's very different from most Dylan books because Elijah Wald was not a big Dylan guy. Like I don't think he knew much about Dylan before writing it, but he did crazy amount of research. So he talked to so many people who were there that night, and he quotes somebody at the very end who overheard Pete saying about Bob Dylan, and the kid, he showed so much promise. Like the morning
like
after.
a disappointment.
Yes.
Oh.
The morning after, Pete was having breakfast in the hotel, and he said, that kid, he showed so much promise. And that really goes against the narrative of like Pete always supported Bob. No, he didn't try to cut the cables with an axe. And maybe he wasn't even disappointed about the move to rock and roll, but Pete really did. I mean, he
was the leader of a
he was
movement.
political.
Yeah.
And Dylan, I think more so than choosing not to be an acoustic performer, it was Dylan's move away from finger pointing songs.
Yes.
That's what disappointed Pete.
Right. He wanted more finger. Right.
He did.
Because Bob was
The whole teaspoon thing, dude. That should be fucking Edward Norton's Oscar clip.
Yeah.
The teaspoon of sand. That monologue was the best part of the whole thing.
That was amazing.
I
also love how Bob was like, "Let him tell us the story."
Albert's like, "Yeah, we get it. We get the point."
The continued respect that Bob Dylan has for Pete Seeger throughout the movie while clearly changing, I thought was so wonderful.
Yeah,
I
thought
hard
so
to
too.
do if you're Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
That was great.
It's great.
Yeah, there were. I mean, overall, it was just really, really great. I can't. I don't have that much negative to say about it. It really was.
Yeah.
But
I have to watch it again immediately because I don't even trust my own reaction because it was so weird the first 20 minutes of the film. It's just like you're like, oh, I'm finally watching it. Oh my god, this is it.
Yeah.
This is how it begins. It's like you're in your own head about it. So I need to rewatch it, kind of knowing what to expect without being surprised.
Right.
To see how it works.
Yeah, it'll be really fun when we go see it at Christmas, but I don't want to wait till then.
Oh God, we gotta wait 22 more days. Yeah, so my big takeaways are really surprised at how much music there is in it, and how it uses the music to tell the story. That was unusual. But that's the way music films should be.
Yeah, it's the songs.
It's the songs.
And he really says that. He's like, you gotta hear this guy's songs. Oh, a couple other things. I really appreciated like them showing kind of how music industry worked back then. With like, no, you come in here and you play other people's songs.
Yes,
And
yeah.
this is Columbia recording. Like you know, like be professional. And then Bob Dylan is basically the one who changed that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he doesn't get enough credit for being, you know, the artist who like kind of show, like, no, it's the artist's show. You know, how many records did Johnny Cash have to make following the rules? You know,
and when Johnny Cash was bombed, when he dropped that beer, it was so good.
that was great. Yeah, so rub some mud on the carpet.
Yeah.
I like how Bob called Cash Jr.
Yeah.
Because at least in Walk the Line, that felt like only the closest to Johnny called him Jr.
His parents.
Yeah, and then Bob, and then he called Bob BD. I love that.
BD.
And you know what? The letter writing stuff. That was a wonderful scene because if you're a Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash fan and you've been to the Bob Dylan Center, you know that's a real thing.
On the barf bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
How sweet is that? That like they actually did have a correspondence. They showed that and that like they were writing to each other on the plane. Like, you know, in sort of the haze of travel and becoming big stars. I love that. That like Johnny Cash took the time to tell an artist, like, basically, you changed my life.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bob acknowledged that like, you telling me that changed my life.
And now they're linked together forever.
Yeah, that's so great that's another thing that was canonized.
I mean, it's almost like I think Johnny Cash in the future will be remembered because of the role he played in Dylan's life. You know what I mean? Because
you think
Dylan,
so?
Oh, I do. Because Dylan is like Shakespeare. It's like people today, they know about, you know, the 15th century because they know Shakespeare's plays. Like whatever they know about that whole era is because of their study of that one.
And you can't know anything about America in the 1960s without knowing a little bit about Bob Dylan.
Exactly. I mean, I honestly think ultimately, hundreds of years from now, people are going to know about the Vietnam War because they know Dylan as the greatest artist of the 20th century.
Wow.
They're going to be like, oh, he was part of America in the 60s when America was fighting the Vietnam War. Like, so I think people are going to know about everything.
A Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall. That was another scene that broke me.
So good.
He's a good performer. He didn't sound exactly like Bob Dylan, but I'm glad
but he should. Because if he tried to sound more like him, and the other thing is,
it felt authentic the way he was singing.
Yeah. It's like he had this Dylan voice, which was like his Dylan voice.
Right.
And
that little bit of a lisp.
Yeah, the lisp was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dylan himself never sounded the same from one year to the next. I mean, when you listen to the first album, and
album sounds more like "Good as I've Been to You" than it does to Highway 61.
When you listen to Free Willin', it's like it sounds like a different guy.
Right.
You know. Yeah, because I think especially on the first album, it really sounds like he's trying to emulate old blues singers.
He sounds old, yeah.
Yeah, he sounds old, and then with Free Willin', you know, it's a different voice.
They did a great job also showing how Bob Dylan was and is a great singer. Like, people were drawn. The guitar and the harmonica was part of it, but people loved his voice.
Right.
They were floored when they heard that voice in those cafes.
I know. Well, that comes through in the book. When I read the book, I was like, oh my God. Dylan Goes Electric. It's like, oh yeah, he was like a star on the coffee house scene, and there were like 1,000 people trying to become famous in that scene.
Right.
You know, they all wanted.
Right. So it's like that.
They wanted the record deal, you know? They wanted to be on Folkways Records.
Right.
And then it's like he broke through, not through his songwriting, it was through playing other people's songs. And then after he got the record deal, he became a songwriter. Right. So that's why it kills me to see all these people on Twitter being like great songwriter, terrible singer.
Oh,
that's like the most cliche way to describe Dylan, but it's like, no, he got his record deal with Columbia Records, which was like a major record label, because they liked the way he did other people's songs.
Yeah.
Because the people in the clubs did.
That was so well done in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, showing like what a great singer he was. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And I loved.
I love that aspect of it, like the falling in love with Bob Dylan right in front of our eyes. Everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
I love that everyone was in that scene. That was perfect. And
what song did he do?
when he sat down after Jones' set.
Yeah. It wasn't an original, was it? No.
I don't remember. He played harmonica for sure.
Oh, I was young when I left home.
Yeah.
Which was a killer choice.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah. Because that song rules.
And later he did "I'll Keep It With Mine" on
I'll
the
Keep It With
piano.
Mine,
They did a great job showing all. We've now heard the cutting edge, and years before all those Thin Wild Mercury music bootlegs. So seeing all that in the studio and seeing how much fun Bob's having with the whistle and
the whistle thing was incredible. Again, that's action. It's like show him by the whistle. Show him like think to put it in the
harmonica
rack. Yeah, that was great.
That was so fun.
The other song that was thrilling to see was "Fixin' to Die."
Yes. The way he plays that guitar.
Yeah,
that's a hard song to play.
Yeah, that riff,
that bass line
sliding
riff.
the finger down the bass.
Yep. And he sings that with such passion.
I know.
Like, I love that, and I love
the detail of like you're moving your head. Yeah, like do it again.
And he's
like, that's real. That's
just
real.
So unsure of himself. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like they.
He's like a wild animal.
Yeah.
It's
He'd
like
never been to the studio before.
One mic for the voice, one for the guitar.
But it's funny when you listen to him on that album. There are certain audio things that make it seem so real. Like I feel like I can hear him moving away from the mic on that album sometimes,
totally,
and that makes me love it even more.
Yeah. And when he's playing slide guitar on "See That My Grave Is Kept Clean," in reality, he's using Susie Rodolo's lipstick holder.
Oh, that's
the
what he
lipstick
is.
holder. That was his slide, which is incredible. Yeah, and that you can hear it. Like it's got this metallic sound. It's
that's funny.
Really interesting. But what were we going to say about it? It Takes a Lot to Die. Oh, he was doing the same.
No, he was playing. He was just the open tuning. He was doing it without a.
He was using his finger.
He was just he was just playing the chords, but it was tuning where you could play just. On
See,
one
this is what I think. I think Dylan was like, "All right, Jim, great script, but if you want me to sign off on this, I insist you put a scene in there where I jam with Muddy Waters' son, where my character jams with his son on TV." That's what I think Dylan said. Yeah,
I think you're right.
And I think Mangold's attitude was probably not like, "Are people can accept this?" He was probably like, "Bob, why does this need to be in the movie?" And Bob was like, probably like, "Show me jamming with an old blues band." Like that's the kind of thing Dylan might insist upon.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it just, to me, that scene, every scene in the movie had a narrative purpose, except that one.
Yes.
It was just like, why is this here? He's just jamming.
Because it was starting to show, like what it felt like it was at first. Oh, it's showing the rift between Pete and Bob. Like Bob doesn't even show up to his TV
and Bob's
show.
got the sunglasses
but he
on.
does show up, and then he
he
does sit down, and they make room for him.
But it's 65, Bob. It's not. It's not.
Yeah. I love how Bob Dylan invented a look. Like sunglasses at night, indoors. Yeah, several, but like that was such a great look.
Yeah.
I like what you said about like the movie moving along. Like I didn't look at my watch once.
No,
and usually even movies I'm enjoying.
How long was it? Was it 2:15 or 2:30?
I have no idea.
I don't. It doesn't. It just didn't feel like it was over 2 hours to me.
No. Walk the lines like that too.
It is. It moves fast
before you know, and it's long.
Yeah,
especially when you watch the extended version.
It is long. Yeah.
Boy, I hope there's an extended version of this.
I hope so. I should try and. You want to try and, like, just for the hell of it, write down all the songs? Because
Yeah.
I have a pen.
Yeah,
So
you have
I
a
think,
pen.
and we can talk about other things while we do it. But I just want to. Dude, Monica singing was so good.
She's
House
amazing.
of the Rising Sun, she crushed
That was nuts.
When she put her hand on the mic and
Yes,
did the verse
just did a cappella away from the
So
mic.
good.
Yeah, and Joan would do stuff and does do stuff like that. Yeah, that was bon- I mean, I can't wait for this soundtrack, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and eventually they'll release like an expanded version, like they did with Walk the Line.
Yes,
to try to make
they-
more money, and I'll buy both.
And they should do a. They should do a Bob Dylan version.
of all the songs,
it's like
a
the songs
compilation,
that inspired the film.
and
Yeah.
put Joan in
And
there
Pete,
too.
yeah.
Pete, yeah.
Johnny.
Johnny, right? Did Joan? Was she a Columbia? Did she eventually join Columbia Records? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't.
No.
I can't think of her
She
as.
started off on Folkways, and
Yeah.
she would have moved to one of the major labels.
I can't
No.
picture her on like the with the Columbia logo.
But it was interesting, like when it was like Albert was trying to sign her. I don't know if that was true.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't need to be.
Doesn't matter.
It felt real.
What's the name of that great actor who played Woody Guthrie? It's like Sparky or Petey or Scoot McNairy.
Yeah, he's
I
great.
love him.
He's so good.
I love him. He's yeah, that was good. Yeah, everyone was great. Oh, and we finally know who James Austin Johnson plays, the dorky
The MC at
Cafe Wa or
Gertie's.
Gertie's, MC.
Well, I was trying to think, because like as big of a Bob Dylan nut as I am, like all that lore gets mixed together in my head, because I'm like, in Chronicles he talks about Fred Neil being the MC, but I'm like, wait, was that the MC of Gertie's, or was it the Gaslight, or was it the Cafe Wa?
Right.
Like, I can't remember.
All those places get mixed
But
up.
remember, Fred Neil is the guy who wrote Everybody's Talkin',
Right.
the song from Midnight Cowboy. Yeah, and Dylan describes him in a really exciting way. Do you remember this in
Tell me,
Chronicles?
tell me.
Well, he
I don't remember that.
Well, he talks about how Fred Neil was like the MC, and he would play songs, and he would like decide who played,
Yeah,
and then he was
yeah.
like, and he would make money, and then he would like take it down to Florida. He would go down
Yeah.
to Florida to like cool off, and then he would come back, like as if he was like a criminal or something.
Right. That's so
But I'm like, wait, is that who James Austin Johnson is playing?
We'll
or-
have to look at the
Yeah.
credits. The credits went by very fast for the cast. I couldn't even.
Yeah,
Couldn't even-
I think it said Gertie's MC, but I'm like
Oh.
wondering if beyond that, if he was.
Right. I mean, they bothered to name Dave Von Ronk, right? Which
Yeah,
was interesting.
he was only in that one scene, right?
Two.
That
He
guy's
was-
a famous actor.
Yeah. Who is
Michael
that guy?
Chernus. He's in.
He looked familiar. in
Did
it.
you ever see the show Easy on Netflix?
No.
Well, that's what I know. him
He's in
from.
that.
But he's in like a lot of shows.
I didn't know you watch shows.
I don't. Well, I watched Easy is Joe Swanberg, who he's Chicago.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
Chicago show. He's a great director.
I wanted to ask you about a film thing before we make our list.
Yeah.
The film that they go to see
Oh, Now Voyager.
now,
Yeah.
now Voyager.
Yeah.
Is that a good film?
It's
Is
great.
It, yeah.
It's incredible.
Betty Davis and
Paul Henreid from Casablanca.
oh, from
yeah.
okay, yeah.
The,
I never saw that.
big-
So I was, I'm sitting there, sitting next to you, and I'm like, does Michael know this film?
Oh, of
Does he
course.
like
Yeah,
it? Okay.
it's amazing.
That's like a classic.
It's great. Yeah, it's a great romance. It's like Betty Davis is the ugly duckling.
Oh,
who
okay.
becomes the.
Okay,
And-
what was Bob's assessment of it? Something like, what did you?
So I don't think that. No, this is something again we need to look up. As big as Bob Nutt as I am, I don't know if Bob has ever referenced that movie in anything.
well, it's the first I'd ever heard of the movie, so
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I think again what that might be alluding to, because James Mangold is smart, like Cash giving Dylan the guitar. I think it's an allusion to puts her hands in her back pockets, Betty Davis.
Yeah. Oh, I
That's what
think I knew for sure they wanted some Betty Davis thing
Yeah.
for that reference.
But I don't think Dylan himself ever mentioned that movie, like in writing anywhere. But
yeah, they could have gone to see anything. Like they could have gone to see Cat on a Hot Tin Roof or whatever was playing.
But it
then,
gives
you
it.
know.
That's like the visual motif of lighting two cigarettes.
Uh-huh.
So he does that in '65.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Yeah.
But interestingly, My other favorite American film of this year is Anora. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm dying to see it. Yeah.
It's stressful.
Oh, is it?
Well, but it's also funny. It's really funny.
I'm hearing it's like going to be Best Picture. Like,
It's definitely going to get nominated for everything, and the lead actress is so good.
Yeah.
But it's a crazy roller coaster of emotions. I loved it. But anyway, they also reference Now Voyager in Anora, which is interesting. I'm like, and it's just a weird coincidence.
Of all things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
remember that when you watch it,
when I
because you
watch
should
it.
see it. The lead actress in it it's the best female performance I've seen in years.
In years.
Mikey Madison.
Okay.
Yeah. Force of nature.
Wow.
So physical.
So first thing he plays in
Song to Woody.
Song to Woody, but doesn't he play something at Pete's house?
That's after.
That's after. Okay.
Yeah.
So Song to Woody.
Yeah. He meets Pete in the hospital.
Oh right, playing Song to Woody.
In the Pete's
Then he
house,
plays-
is Girl from the North Country.
Right, where his Pete's
Good
daughter says it's a start. Good start. Yeah, that's good. I love that.
Then I Was Young When I Left Home.
That's what he plays in the club.
When he meets Joan. I was young when I left home.
Fixin' to Die.
Fixing to Die.
What does he play in the church? The Hootenanny. I don't remember that.
It's an original. If I had to do it over, I'd do it all over you.
Oh yeah.
That, which was a good deep cut.
Yes.
If I had,
There were a couple deep. Yeah.
that was a big deep cut.
Yeah.
It's gonna get real hazy for me around here.
Yeah. Because then maybe blowing in
Maybe
the wind.
blowing in the wind, and then
Right.
Don't Think Twice.
Right. Oh, Hard Rain. He does It Ain't Me, Babe with her.
Yeah, as a duet.
Yeah. But that's later, I know. But when they're first playing at Carnegie Hall.
Well,
What did they play
the times they are changing is before It Ain't.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, at Newport. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And also, we forgot Masters of War.
Yes.
Speaking of freewheeling. So, Masters of War. And then the most unusual device is in the middle of Masters of War. You see March on Washington.
Where they play a clip of him
Only upon in their
Your
game.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very interesting. The music didn't even really cut out. It was
No.
just you just.
Yeah, and then it goes back to Masters of War.
I liked the interjection of real images. And
Yeah.
I love when they Forrest
Rossi
Gump.
Davis. Yeah.
And
yeah,
then they're
yeah.
like, I love Sylvie's sister is flipping. I just assumed that girl who was always with her was her sister.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
They when she's flipping
saw
through
her name in the
Bob's
credits,
package
Yeah.
from
Yes.
presumably from Beatty.
Like Zimmerman.
And like, there's the picture of him at camp with
Yes.
the electric guitar at
That
Camp
was
Herzl.
brilliant. Yeah, they
And-
recreated
And there's
that.
a picture of his bar mitzvah. I don't know if you saw that in
I
the
did
top right
not.
corner.
No.
There's a picture of him with the rabbi reading Torah.
That's incredible. Dude,
so-
by the way, you got to go to Hibbing.
I know.
The hotel where he had his bar mitzvah is still standing.
I know.
You can see it. It's very opulent
One day.
for Hibbing.
I mean,
which is
Hibbing
very-
High is opulent.
Hibbing High is the most opulent high school ever. In the least, in the most like run down town. It's so weird to be there in the best way. Okay,
so then,
well, let's think of albums. Okay, so Masters of War, Freewheeling.
did he do All I Really Want to Do? His Baby Be
Yes,
With You? Yeah.
as a duet with Joan, which
yeah.
was not accurate.
That's when Sylvie kind of got upset and walked away, right?
No, that was It Ain't Me, Babe.
Oh, that was it.
All I Really Want to Do, and then after All I Really Want to Do, he walks away while she's playing, and then he starts singing Gates of Eden.
Yes. Wait, Michael, that
Yeah.
scene. Okay, so there's another thing that I don't.
Pure fiction.
Yeah, he didn't have like a meltdown on stage.
No.
He was always very professional, and all those were all recorded. Like,
Yeah.
you can listen to that album. Like,
Yeah.
that's like bootleg 4
Yeah.
for 5 or something. Or no, maybe 4. I think the Carnegie Hall concerts.
Yeah.
right. So that never happened. He didn't refuse to play "Blowin' in the Wind" in the middle of a concert with her. As far as you know.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. But I don't think that was what Bob Dylan put in as the fake as the fake thing.
No, not at all.
Okay. So then
What else?
the rock. Then okay.
Times they are changing.
We got that.
When the ship comes in.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
Off Times.
Was that what he played at that house party?
Yes, at Harold Leventhal's place. So Harold Leventhal, that actor was really good. The guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long it's been since you've seen No Direction Home, but he's interviewed in No Direction Home, and he's the only person who talks about how disappointed he was, which is great because it's like when you read about Dylan, you're like, who are these people who are disappointed?
They're all villains.
Yeah, they're villains. Yeah. But then he's like, I must admit, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
So it's like in No Direction Home, he's like bald with glasses, and then it was great to see him young. It's like, oh, that's that guy.
Yeah. I loved seeing Theodore Bickel,
yes.
the greatest Tevye of all time.
Yes.
Like, that was, you know, he's one of ours, and we love him. And
yeah.
So I always
during the meeting around the
meeting,
table.
and like I always chuckled when like I'll watch Newport or something, and like see him like, oh, Tevye, like, and then. But that he was so integral. He was on the board.
Yeah,
like, he was a big part of Newport. So
he was what does Dylan say? The puritanical posse.
Yeah. And then later, he's like the men who decide what's folk music.
Yeah,
that was great.
So off of Free Will, there's Blowing in the Wind, Don't Think Twice, Hard Rain, Masters of War. That's it. No Talking Blues. And
what's on Times Are Changing?
Times Are Changing. Only a pawn in their game. When the ship comes in. That's it. Mm-hmm. And then
Another Side.
Another
All I Really
Side
Want to Do
is It Ain't Me, Babe. All I Really Want to Do. There was no Chimes of Freedom. There was no Restless Farewell.
No Black Crow Blues.
No Black Crow Blues. No Ballad in Plain D.
Yeah. Thank God there's no Ballad in Plain D.
So I guess we have to move on to
bring it all back home.
Bring it all back home.
Subterranean Homesick Blues. I'm surprised they didn't take an opportunity to do the video.
Yeah.
You know, just for a chance to pop
Ginsberg in there.
Ginsberg, thank you. Yeah.
Subterranean, Maggie's Farm.
It's All Over Now, Baby Blue.
Yep.
He does a piece of It Takes a Lot to Laugh.
Oh wait, hold on. It's All Right, Ma.
Oh yeah, right.
When Joan kicks it out.
Oh yeah. That was hilarious.
And I think we already have Gates of Eden earlier. Highway 61, like a Rolling Stone. What else off Highway 61?
You got Highway 61?
Yeah. No. Highway 61.
Yeah, so they did the whistle scene. Yeah.
Great.
That was so cool.
Yeah, that was fun. It takes a lot to laugh.
Oh, and I'll Keep It With Mine.
I'll Keep It With Mine.
Yeah. When he's playing piano.
Yeah, that was great. I'll Keep It. And also Railroad Bill.
Oh yeah, Railroad Bill. I do that with my folk group, my folk class. Shout out Peggy and Mark.
I did notice in the credits it said Railroad Bill arrangement Bob Dylan, which I thought was really interesting because it's like that's a folk song.
Oh yeah.
It's not, But I think they may have been referring to the fact that it's like I think it's the Another Side arrangements rather than like I don't think Dylan was like here's how you should do it for this film. It's based on the not the Another Side. I'm sorry, Another Self-Portrait.
Oh,
that's where it is. Yeah. Railroad Bill, and then what else? Oh, Mr. Tambourine Man.
Yes, at the end for the credits. I don't think we ever actually saw him play it, but he played some in the credits. Him. And then, and Blown in the Wind again, reprised in the credits with Joan.
Yeah.
So how many is that?
25.
That we can think of. I don't think we've forgotten any.
No. Did I have When the Ship Comes In?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And I know I saw in the credits it credited the death of Emmett Till. Oh. And it said performed by Timothée Chalamet, and I don't remember hearing that or seeing it in the movie.
Yeah, he must have been writing it and singing it at one point,
or I don't know. Like maybe it was in an earlier cut of the movie, and they didn't include it in the final cut.
What was he writing in the car in the first scene, the opening scene?
I couldn't read.
Yeah. Was he humming anything, or was he just writing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, that was great. Great movie. Go see it.
25.